I give a lot of talks. There's rarely alcohol involved, but tonight there is, which is great, because the more you drink, the better this talk gets. Trust me on that, so keep drinking. Who am I? Murray Goldberg. I'm the CEO of Marine Learning Systems. I do other stuff in tech. I'm a mentor at an incubator in Redwood City, GSV Labs, various other things. One thing I should say right off the bat is that I never ever aspired to be in business at all. I've certainly never taken any business courses or anything like that. So everything I say today, you're going to have to take with a massive grain of salt because it's probably none of it's true. My actual background is I was a computer science faculty member at UBC for about 10 years. I taught computer science. I left the university. My research area was online learning, web-based learning. I left the university to start a company called WebCT. And WebCT built a learning management system for higher ed. Anyway, so did three kind of companies. Number one, WebCT. WebCT happened to work out very well, not because of anything we did well, but just because we were right place, right time. We ended up with like 14 million users, 80 countries, 4,000 universities. It was great, sold it for lots. Second company, Silicon Chalk, not so great. We're around for about 4 years. We really never broke out, so we kind of wrapped that up after about 4 years. Now, third company, Marine Learning Systems, seems to be going well. We're doubling roughly 2 times every year, year over year, so that's pretty good. We're about 35 people on Granville Island. We also have a small office in Europe, so I think that's going to be a success. So what I really want to say here is that had some successes, but certainly had failures as well. So, actually I can go here. So when I was asked to speak, I thought, well, what should I speak about? I don't really know. Well, the question I get asked the most is, well, give me some advice about starting a company. Maybe some of you want to start companies. Maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should think about it. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So here we go. So the very first thing about starting a company is, really, are you sure you really want to? Because it can be amazing, but it can really suck as well. And most of the time, it kind of does a lot of both. And in fact, it usually does more of the sucking side because most companies don't make it. We've probably all heard the stat, like 75% of venture-funded companies don't succeed. And that's if you get to the venture funding stage, which most don't. Most CEOs that I hang around with, and myself included, are horribly overworked and we're very, very stressed. I mean, when I was a faculty member, my kind of average happiness level was very high. I loved being a faculty member. And the bad days were not so bad, and the great days were a little bit better than average. That's great. But for you CEOs in the room, I suspect you'll know, when you're a CEO and you have a crappy day, it sucks. I mean, you just want to die. It's way down there. But then, of course, when you have a great day, it's like over the moon fantastic. So are you the kind of person who likes this massively kind of up and down swing all the time? It's actually very hard. And even if you're okay with that, do you really want to take the risk? Because if you have a brain in Vancouver and you can breathe, then you probably have a great job if you're in the tech industry, right? And so there's a big financial risk to leaving that. It's one of the greatest impediments, I think, to becoming an entrepreneur is having a good job because you don't necessarily want to leave that. So you have to ask yourself, I mean, is it something you really want to do? And if it helps, I have to say that on the positive side, there is nothing more exciting than seeing something that you conceived of, something that you built, actually making people's days better all the time. And that, of course, is the massive rush. And that's why I've done this for the last 20 years when I thought I was going to be a faculty member. Anyway, so if you're still with it, then some advice. Okay, some advice on starting a company. Now, everything I'm going to tell you here is completely self-evident, but it's surprising. I mentor quite a few kind of new entrepreneurs. It's surprising how much people ignore kind of the self-evident stuff. So as I say, a lot of it will be self-evident. So number one, do what you know. Why? Because you're going to be competing. That's what it's all about. And you're going to be competing with other people who do know what they're doing. So it's very important that you understand what you're doing. You know what you're doing. You're in a domain that you understand. You know the customers. You know the space. You know the market. You know the day-to-day lives of the customers and how they make choices and what their pain points are. All those things, you get that. It'll give you insights. It'll give you connections into the market, all the things that you need to know and to have to succeed. It'll give you your first beta tester probably. If you're outside that industry, then all those things are going to be very, very difficult. Certainly it's going to help you avoid a ton of mistakes, and that's really one of the big ones. A lot of people start companies right out of school. Maybe that's okay if you're starting a company about something that is very student-oriented, something you really know. But you're probably kind of pushing a headwind a little bit there. It's better to get some experience first. So how do you get some experience? Oh, wrong one. That's okay. get a job, right? Get a job in the industry that you want to work in. Hold positions from around the company. Understand, again, what the pains are. Then, of course, you'll have a great job. Maybe you won't want to leave, but at least if you do decide to leave, you'll know what you're talking about, and that's good. All right, so once you understand the domain a little bit, think about funding. You know, time is money, money is time. Given an infinite amount of time, I don't think there's a startup in the world that wouldn't eventually succeed. Well, to have an infinite amount of time, you need an infinite amount of money. That's not going to happen. Having a company, more than anything, always feels like to me a race against the clock. It's not like, am I ever going to crack this nut, or how am I going to crack this nut? It's, am I going to crack this nut in the next 30 days because that's when my funding runs out and I'm going to have to go back to washing dishes or whatever it was I was doing before. So it's always a huge race against the clock, and that's bad. So learn to live on very little, personally, corporately. You'll probably have to self-fund for a while, and then eventually when you think you have something good that you can convince other people to give you money for, friends and family, grants, all those kinds of things, angels, maybe VCs eventually. And remember, it's difficult to raise money, but you have to put yourself in the position of the investor, in the funder. I mean, contrary to popular belief, VCs are people too, right? Most of them, some of them are, some of them aren't, but most of them are actually people. You know, they have to keep their reputation, they have to make good decisions. Put yourself in their shoes. What would you need to know about you to be able to take a risk and give you money, to be willing to take that risk and give you money? It's very, very important. So you have to make a very compelling case. Number 3, you need credibility. Okay, well, that's interesting. First of all, why do you need credibility? Well, because in many ways, you're selling yourself, right? Your customers, your early customers, they're taking a huge risk. There's no company behind you. You might go away in a week. Your investors are taking a much, much bigger risk, right? They need to trust you completely. Years ago, I had a talk with one of the first times we were raising money, I had a talk with a Vancouver VC, and she showed me her decision matrix. And on that matrix, 10 to 15% of the decision was based on this idea that you had or this business that you had. 50 to 70% for her was based on the team. So you need credibility. They have to trust that you're going to do the right thing with their money, even when your idea goes out the window and you're going to have to pivot and then repivot and then repivot. So that's very important. The question is, do you have any credibility? Well, you can't fake it. They're going to know, the customers, the VCs, they're going to know if you have credibility or not. And if they don't, they're going to go to somebody with credibility and ask them if you have any credibility. And so you really, really do need to get some. Well, the good thing is, everybody can have credibility. Here are the 5 steps that you need. Obviously, you need lots of experience in the field that you're playing in. That's the first slide. Do what you know. Thorough knowledge of the market, right management team, and so on. Realistic, thorough, well-articulated plan. And then the 5th one, past successes. Past successes are really fantastic because they really open up the door for the next thing. The problem is, of course, they don't come for free. Anybody can have the first 4 if you're willing to work hard. And actually, if you continue to keep working at the first 4, the 5th is just a matter of time, so you'll get there too. But that's very important. You have to come off as credible. Last slide here. If you have no friends, it's time to make some. I mean, I know you all have friends. It's not the kind of friends I mean. I'm talking about the kind of friends that you need, that you can make in the market, in the community, other entrepreneurs, people who are going through the same things that you're going through, starting a company, people that have been there before, have been there a little bit earlier. You need this community, this network. I mean, you're here, and there's a reason for that, right? You need a support group. They can tell you who to talk to. They can introduce you to people. They can vouch for you and help you avoid making mistakes. And they'll support you because this is a hugely emotional thing that you're about to do if you're about to start a company. I can't emphasize that enough. And it's actually quite lonely being a founder and a CEO because within your company, there are very few people that you can talk to about everything. We're about 35 people on Granville Island. It's like a family there. It's fantastic. But there's not everything that I can discuss with each one of those people because they all have different roles in the company. Not everything would be appropriate. It's never too late. I mean, I meet with a group of 3 other software as a service company founders in town. We meet probably every 2 to 3 months, and it's fantastic. Every single time we meet, I certainly learn something. So anyway, after all this, if you decide that you're still going to go ahead, that's great. Then the most important advice, of course, is to have fun and go and build something amazing because, well, it's great. Anyway, thank you. You want me? Yeah, sure. You want to take this? Oh, no, I guess you can. I can.
where I take the mic around if you have any questions for Murray. Let's clap it up again, yeah, for him. Any insightful questions? Wow, okay, I can ask one. You had a slide on there about, oh my God, why am I drawing? The last slide, can you just flip it back? Or was it the second last slide? This part. In terms of a thorough knowledge of the market, what was the way that you found, was it just through experience or research, or how do you stay on top of the market because things are changing so quickly?
Oh, well, in WebCT, I knew the market because I taught for 10 years at UBC, so that was kind of a no-brainer. That was an easy one. I was inherently in the market. But with marine learning systems, it was a whole new thing. And actually, I had experience in e-learning, of course, and marine learning systems, which I didn't tell you what we did. I mean, we built a learning management platform for kind of skills-based industries. But anyway, we had to learn that market. So what did I do? I hired a bunch of people who knew it. And there's actually no other way. And sometimes you got to do that because I couldn't, in the space that I needed to in a year or less, really get that deep into it. Now I know it very, very well, but it's been about 4 years.
All right. Are you working with Rob Riley?
Nope.
Okay, so
Yep.
just had a moment there. Perfect. Thomas, making my way over.
So when do you think is a good time to jump into it for funding? Like, would you go until you need it, or would you get it before that time comes?
Wait as long as you possibly can. So it's my view. I mean, different people will tell you different things, but go for funding when you can't afford not to anymore. A little bit before, because by the way, it takes forever to find funding. So in marine learning systems, I was lucky in that sense because I was able to self-fund it for the first couple of years. There I waited until we had a little bit of traction. It was clear that things were going to probably go quite well, and then we went and looked for funding. Not everybody has that luxury all the time anyway, right? And so you start small. You get your idea panned out. Hopefully you've saved some money, so maybe you can take a year of yourself and another year of a partner, and both of you are willing to work for nothing for a while. Get that first beta tester, get that first kind of semi-customer who will vouch for what you're doing, and then go ahead. I mean, wait until you have something to show a potential investor. That's really the key, right?
Any others? Oh, perfect. 1 second.
Hi.
Hi.
So I was curious, what was on your mind when you just decided to create a job into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so once again, I kind of had it easy there because I was a faculty member at UBC. Probably the best job in the world, and one of the many things that makes it the best job in the world is you can take a leave and your job will still be there a year after you have left, even 2 years. I actually ended up taking a 3rd year of leave. If I had decided to come back, I could have come back. One of the things I kind of said very quickly there is I think a really great job is one of the biggest impediments to actually becoming an entrepreneur because it's very hard to do that. So the people that I see, the people that come by and that I mentor are people who have saved up for a number of years. They know they want to do this. Now, one great thing in the Vancouver tech community is you can actually take a year off. You can take 2 years off. You may not get your old job back, but you're going to get a job. As long as you're not completely stale, right, you're going to get a job. So anyway, you just have to want it enough. You have to decide it's time to leave, save yourself up some money. And as long as times like this are really good for developers right now, go for it, right? Really, what do you have to lose? If it turns around, if it's very hard to get a job, you might want to think twice about it.